Welcome to this explainer. We're going to jump right into things today with a truly terrifying scene from 1923. Picture it, Cairo's Continental Hotel. A wealthy British lord is thrashing around in his bed. He's been struck down by a severe fever. His breathing is incredibly heavy, just completely strained. And at exactly 1:55 a.m., he draws his final breath.
Now you might be wondering, what's so special about this? Well, just months before his agonizing death, this very same man had breached a 3,000-year-old Egyptian tomb. And legend has it, outside that tomb, a chilling warning was literally carved into the stone. Death shall come on swift wings to whoever disturbs the peace of the pharaoh. Section 1. A string of eerie deaths.
Okay, let's dive into this because the timeline here is spine-chilling. When Lord Carnarvon died at exactly 1:55 a.m. in Cairo, something unexplainable happened. At that very second, the entire city of Cairo suffered a complete blackout. I mean, the whole city just plunged into absolute darkness. And if that wasn't enough, thousands of miles away in England, Carnarvon's pet dog, Susie, suddenly started howling uncontrollably in the middle of the night, right before just dropping dead herself. And it absolutely did not stop there. Over the next few years, the terror really escalated. By 1929, 22 people connected to the tomb had died. The 78-year-old father of the expedition's secretary abruptly jumped from a 7th-floor window in London. The radiologist who x-rayed the mummy died suddenly. But here is the most horrifying part. An autopsy of that 3,000-year-old mummy revealed a bizarre mark on its cheek, in the exact same spot where Lord Carnarvon had suffered his fatal bug bite. I mean, wow, it's no wonder this unexplainable coincidence completely cemented the world's terror.
Section 2. Opening King Tut's tomb. To understand how we got here, we have to talk about Howard Carter. He was kind of an unlikely archaeologist, the frequently ill son of an animal painter. For 15 long years, his sponsor, Lord Carnarvon, had spent roughly £500,000 in today's money digging around in the Egyptian sand with literally nothing to show for it. Naturally, Carnarvon threatened to cut the funding. So this was it, their final season, their absolute last chance. But then, on November 4th, 1922, they found steps carved right into the rock. And on November 26th, the sealed door of King Tutankhamun was finally breached. So Carter makes this tiny hole in the sealed door, right? He peers in with just a flickering candle, and Carnarvon asks from behind him, "Can you see anything?" Carter famously and breathlessly replied, "Wonderful things." And he wasn't kidding. They discovered over 5,000 perfectly preserved objects, including a dagger actually forged from a meteorite and an astonishing 10-kilogram solid gold death mask. It was the discovery of a lifetime. But right as this magnificent discovery was being celebrated, a really chilling local omen sparked mass panic. Carter kept a lucky golden canary in his house. Just days after the tomb was opened, an assistant heard this awful scream. A cobra, which, by the way, is the ultimate symbol of Egyptian royalty, had somehow slithered into the bird's cage and eaten the canary. So much for a lucky bird, right? For the local workers, this was a terrifying, crystal-clear sign the dead king's serpent was taking its revenge. Section 3. The birth of a myth. It all sounds like the perfect ghost story, doesn't it? But, it's time we pull back the curtain on this legend, because the actual story of why this curse started is way more fascinating than the ghost story itself. We have to ask ourselves, where did this fake curse actually come from? Let's totally shift our focus away from the supernatural for a minute and look instead at human psychology and, well, deliberate fabrication. So, the crucial point is that the media at the time claimed an ancient clay tablet was found at the tomb's entrance with that terrifying curse written right on it. They even said Carter hid it from his workers. But the historical truth? That tablet never existed. Actually, scratch that, it's worse. The text didn't even match ancient Egyptian phrasing. It sounded highly suspiciously like something a modern novelist just dreamed up. And the crazy thing is, we know exactly how it was fabricated. Decades later, the tomb's security officer, Richard Adamson, completely confessed. When a journalist eagerly asked the archaeological team if there were curses written on the walls, the team didn't deny it. Adamson admitted, "Our slight smile gave him the story." That's right. Just a strategic silence and a smiling complicity from the team allowed a reporter's wild imagination to invent the world's most famous curse. Section 4. Media rivalry and fake news. It was really the sensationalist press ecosystem of the 1920s that turned a simple, fabricated rumor into a global panic. Competing newspapers absolutely weaponized public fear just to sell stories. The Daily Express published a curse warning from a very popular novelist, Marie Corelli. Even Arthur Conan Doyle, the guy who created Sherlock Holmes, publicly blamed an evil elemental for the illnesses. But here is the absolute kicker. The Times newspaper had an exclusive deal to report on the tomb. Because the rival Morning Post was locked out, they literally just invented facts to compete, like that terrifying story about the mummy having a matching cheek mark. It was pure journalistic competition, not some ancient supernatural force. Now, in a dark, kind of poetic twist of irony, Arthur Weigall, the Daily Mail reporter who heavily promoted this curse to millions of readers, eventually caught a fever in Egypt and died. And of course, the sensationalist media immediately added him to the list as victim number 21. The very man who manufactured the hysteria ended up being consumed by his own creation. Section 5. Science dismantles the curse. And this brilliantly illustrates how mundane historical reality gets completely twisted. When we actually look at the facts side by side, it all falls apart. That supernatural blackout in Cairo? Yeah, those were just routine 1920s grid failures. Happens all the time. The dog dying at the exact same minute? Well, when you account for time zones between Egypt and England, the dog actually died 4 hours later. And Lord Carnarvon's sudden death? The guy had been chronically ill for years, and he died from a severely infected bug bite in an era before penicillin even existed. A bug bite in 1923 was pretty much a death sentence, not a mummy's curse. To put that into perspective, when investigator James Randi looked at the 44 Westerners who were present in Egypt during the excavation, he calculated a staggering number: 73. 73 years old was the average age of death for those supposedly exposed to the curse. That was actually higher than the normal life expectancy for their era. So if anything, the curse was making them live longer. However, there was actually something biological inside the tomb. In 1963, Dr. Azzeddin Taha discovered Aspergillus niger, which is a fungus that survives in ancient Egyptian tombs. People weren't being cursed by magic. Some of them were just suffering from severe respiratory inflammation caused by a mold allergy. A curse that, today, we could easily treat with basic antibiotics. Section 6. The ultimate historical irony. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because to truly judge this myth, we really just need to look at the people the curse supposedly should have targeted first. Lady Evelyn, Lord Carnarvon's daughter, was one of the very first people inside the tomb. She died at a very comfortable 78 years old. Dr. Douglas Derry, the man who physically unwrapped and autopsied the mummy, he lived to be 87. And Howard Carter himself, the mastermind who actually discovered and breached the tomb, he lived for 16 more years, finally passing away at age 64. In fact, for the rest of his life, whenever eager reporters would come up and harass Howard Carter about his impending supernatural doom, his exasperated response was always exactly the same: "I am still alive." You know, there's a really profound ancient Egyptian belief that says a person truly lives as long as their name is spoken. Tutankhamun was such a brief, chaotic ruler that his successors actively tried to erase his name from all historical records. He was entirely forgotten for 3,000 years, buried deep under the sand, until the sickly son of an animal painter finally uncovered him. Which leaves us with this incredible, truly provocative question: did the sensationalist, fear-mongering 1920s media accidentally give a forgotten boy king the exact eternal life he was promised? Because by inventing a fake curse, they ensured the world would never, ever forget the name Tutankhamun. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to